Welcome back to Oojamaflip Books. If you're new here, my name is Jo and I'm a crime fiction reader from the UK, and today I've got another book review for you. So today's book review is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. This is the third Lucy Foley book that I've read, and I've accidentally read her books so far in reverse chronological order, purely because I picked up a copy of The Paris Apartment at Costco, read that, enjoyed it, and then basically whenever I saw any of her works in bookstores I picked them up. So I've read The Paris Apartment, The Guest List, and now The Hunting Party. This is actually, I think, the fourth book that Lucy Foley has written, but this is actually her first thriller, and then The Guest List and The Paris Apartment I think would also fall into that like thriller suspense category. So this is kind of a debut novel, I guess, in that it's her first thriller, but prior to that she had published books that were in the historical fiction genre. And I think she also worked as an editor within young adult fiction, so I guess she kind of has many hats. I guess that was me trying to put on an imaginary hat then. Many hats. I don't know. Yeah, so this book was, I think, 2018. I don't know why I say I think. I literally have the book. I could go and look. Let's see what it says. This edition was 2019, but I think the book originally came out in hardback in 2018. But so again, finger not fully on the pulse there of like doing a review of a book that's only just come out or anything, because it's been out a while. So what is this book about? So this book is about a group of friends who met at Oxford University and are going away to the Scottish Highlands to a lodge to see in the new year. They are described as friends, but I think it borders more on frenemies. There's a lot of jealousy within the friendship group, and generally, as I think naturally happens after university, people's lives go in different directions and you start having less in common with people, and that's very evident in this book, that what once was like the thing that held them all together, they've all got different priorities in life now. So they go off to the Scottish Highlands to this remote lodge, and the weather turns and they get snowed in. You can kind of see where this is going. Whilst there is no way in and no way out of the lodge, a murder happens, and basically it's a locked room mystery, I guess, of who did it, because there's a finite number of people who could have been responsible. The story is told from the perspectives of different characters, some of the friendship group, also some of the employees of the lodge that they go to, and each chapter alternates between a different person, very similar to how A Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins did it, which I have reviewed and I'll leave linked up above, whichever side it pops up. So yeah, it's very similar in that respect with the alternating narratives. It does also have some time jumps where you sort of like, you're going back in time, but it's done more of as a reminiscing, whereas Paula Hawkins did it more as a, like, the actual story was jumping. But yeah, that's the general premise of the book. So what did I think of the book? I'm going to be honest, this is a bit of a tricky one for me to review, because there are some things that I absolutely hated about this book and other things that I quite liked. So it's very much a like two halves kind of review. So I'll start with the things that I disliked, and the main one is the characters. The main friendship group, who are the sort of centre of the story, the Oxford alumni who have gone to this lodge, they are all absolutely horrible. They are completely toxic, not one redeemable quality in any of them, but they're also written with the most bog standard stereotypes and classism that I think I've ever read in a book. You've got characters who think that you have to be wealthy to succeed in life. The person who works in the city is described as like money hungry and would do anything to get ahead, stab anyone in the back kind of thing. But just, if you were going for like a very pull a theme out of a hat and then stick the stereotypes to them. Every single stereotype there is in there. It just, yeah, not a fan of the characters at all, which I get could be Lucy Foley's entire thing, is that she's written these characters in a way that she wants the reader to hate them all. But there are numerous points throughout the book where the characters are trying to convince the reader that the other characters aren't all bad, which makes me think, well, maybe it wasn't a choice that she wants you to hate them, because otherwise why are you trying to show that they're not all bad and saying, oh yeah, but yes, they did all that, but they did it for the right reason. I don't know, it just didn't sit well with me, and the classism was just, yeah, not a fan. There's also some weird like fourth wall breaking with the characters that happens maybe 3 times, of like, you will just have to take my word for it, and I'm like, wait, sorry, are they talking to us? Like, I don't know, it just came out of nowhere of just, oh yeah, we're just breaking this fourth wall now. Didn't understand it. Also didn't seem to fit with the characters. Basically they're saying like, oh, you'll have to believe me, but they don't up until that point strike you as a character that would care what you thought, so just very confused by them. The other thing that I didn't like about this book is that it is basically the same as the guest list. So I said at the start, Lucy Foley has written a few books and I've read 3 of them. The guest list was written after this book, but it's basically the same storyline. It also features a remote location. It's also got some classism and basic stereotypes, but the guest list does it better and handles those scenarios in a better way. So I feel like this was the first draft of the guest list and it somehow was published, and then the guest list has come out later, which is a much more refined version of this book. So because I read the guest list first, I read this basically just going, this is the same. Like, I don't get it. I don't see how both of these books got published, basically, because they are the same. Which I know you're probably thinking, well, that sounds like you just hated everything. But like I said, there are some bits that I really enjoyed about this book. So one thing that I enjoyed was that you didn't know who had actually died. You find out about finding the body, how the body's been found, but you don't know who it is who has died. You don't even know the gender until probably the last quarter of the book, and I found that quite enjoyable. There were times that I found it frustrating, but overall I didn't guess who it was who had died, and so I think that's possibly why I enjoyed it as a style choice. Possibly if I had guessed earlier, I would have been like, well, this was stupid, why do it when you made it so obvious? But I didn't, so I didn't. Yeah, I enjoyed the not knowing, but it did make it more, for me, locked room mystery rather than a whodunit, because you didn't know, you couldn't like try and play along, if you like, and guess who'd done it, because you didn't know who had died to be able to then try and piece together clues for who did it. I also enjoyed the secondary characters, so basically anyone who worked at the lodge. They seemed to be much more rounded characters. They weren't vapid, they had more interesting backstories, and just the things that they were getting up to were much more interesting, and I feel like the book could have centred on them a little bit more. For the most part, the ending of the book was satisfying. There was an epilogue, which it didn't need to be there for me. It left me feeling a bit, about the entire book, and I think if the epilogue had just been omitted, it would have been a perfectly fine ending. Yeah, the actual story was fairly enjoyable, and I think I would have enjoyed it more if I hadn't read the guest list first. So overall, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. There's so many pros and cons on my list for this book that I feel like 3, just middle of the road, is the best place to put the book, because yeah, I'm basically like that about it. I would recommend Lucy Foley as an author, but I would recommend The Guest List over The Hunting Party, and The Paris Apartment I think was my favourite of hers so far, but I didn't hate it, I just didn't love it as much as The Guest List. I would definitely say it's my least favourite book of hers that I've read. But that's it for today's video. If you have read The Hunting Party, let me know down below what you thought of it, or if you've read any other Lucy Foley books, let me know your thoughts on those down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!